Passing through the veil of mystery, seeking answers no one is brave to ask. This is Bound to Truth.
Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to Bound of Truth. I am Christopher Lopez. Got another episode today that I'm going to share with you with a gentleman named Steve Ghostman. Talked to him a little bit. Has a pretty awesome story that I really like that he's going to share today. And I'm not going to tell it, of course, because that's why I invite him on. He's the first-hand person to share that. And sorry if I'm a little slow this morning. I'm having brain fog this morning, so I'm a little off kilter regarding how I'm talking. So anyways, I'm going to bring him on and get him going here. Hey, Steve, I apologize. That was probably my worst introduction ever, but hopefully you can make it better when you tell your story.
Yeah, that's all good.
Excuse me. So anyways, thanks for coming on, Steve. I know we met through a mutual person, Gary White, who's just an extraordinary human being. Love that guy to death. Incredible man who brings people together, and he has such a big heart. And so I'm very blessed that he introduced both of us together. Now,
Yeah, same here.
yeah. So Gary, so Steve, sorry about that. I almost called you Gary. Again, I'm off kilter. So Steve, pretty much share what you shared with me. Talk about your history, how you got started and what you've been doing, and just kind of share it with the crowd and see how people can like maybe connect with you and kind of like, holy crap, I'm not alone type of thing with when it comes to these events that are considered odd and weird in a world. But please go ahead, talk about yourself, man.
All right. Well, let me kind of start that with I'm a paranormal investigator, and I've been doing this for over 30 years. But now to what got me into that. When I was around 7, 8 years old, I was living in Clearfield, Utah, and place we were living in, my bedroom was downstairs, and like you go down the stairs, you go to the right, it's my bedroom. Go to the left, it's a big room and then under the stairs is the bathroom. And why that's important is coming up. Okay, there was a time where I had just come back from the bathroom and sat down on my bed, and all of a sudden, okay, my room was kind of dark anyway, with the lights out, except for a furnace room that had the flames kind of flickering on the wall. But all of a sudden everything went really dark, and I almost like you're passing out or something, you know. I was wondering what the heck, and then everything came back, and then there was a figure right at the foot of my bed. It was a shadowy figure that it was like a silhouette of someone in a cloak with a wide, almost like a Clint Eastwood style hat, but it had glowing red eyes. And you know, I was in shock at the moment. I just freaked out. You know, the only way I can get out of there is to run past it and get upstairs. And but you know, I figured, well, it's either do or die, because I didn't know what the intentions were. So man, I mustered up everything I could and ran past it and upstairs and into my parents' room. And I kind of had my stepdad wasn't necessarily a good dad, and but anyway, I was afraid of waking him up, so I just covered myself with a rug at the foot of their bed on the floor. And of course, I was there when they woke up and caught hell for it. But then it had happened 2 other times after that. But the second time, it appeared again that I had just got into bed, covered up, and again everything went completely dark. And then when it come back, there was that shadowy figure. There was a shadowy figure. It didn't look quite the same. It was still like black void, you know. So dark. It was like a black void, but it didn't have the hat and it didn't have the glowing red eyes. Although I could see, you know, like a head lump for a head, everything like that. And fearing over what the ordeal was last time when I went up to my parents' room. I was too afraid to do that again, so I just threw the blankets over me for whatever good that was. And until I kind of felt like it was safe, I peeked and the thing was gone. Okay, and then another time it had happened again, but this time it was just kind of a dark, smoky figure off in the corner of my room. It didn't really have any shape to it. But okay, that we ended up moving away with that from that, and that was the last experience I'd had for a while until my uncle. I have an uncle that was an antique nut. He has all the pretty much everything in a cavalry outfit. He's got buckboards and full uniforms, campaign uniforms, all this, that, and the other. But he's an antique nut. He went to a auction and bought an old antique trunk that was from World War II.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why he bought it was because it had a much older lock on it, but it didn't have a key.
Mm-hmm.
Well, him being an antique nut, he knew a lot of people into the antique business, and he was hoping he could get a key made for it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he took it home. He put it down in his den, and from what I hear, the third night that had been down in there, my uncle got woke up with the dog barking at their bedroom door, which was closed. And my uncle jumped up and out of bed and could see an orange glow coming from under the door. So he ran and opened the door, thinking it was a fire, and he could see the glow coming from the kitchen area. He ran down the hallway into the kitchen area, and it looked like it was coming from downstairs. So he goes to the top of the stairs, flicks the light on, and goes down there, looks all around, and can't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
Goes back up, turns the light back off, and no orange glow. So but then it's about two days later or something like that. He was out front mowing the lawn, and the neighbor across the street come over and asked him, "Man, what was going on a couple of nights ago? Your whole yard was lit up orange. Your whole front yard. It looked like it was coming out of your basement windows." And my uncle
Mm-hmm.
told him, "I don't know what that was. It woke me up too." Anyway, so then after that, he started having paranormal activity. He'd wake up, or he'd get up to get ready to go to work, and his shaving kit would be all out like somebody had just used it.
Mm-hmm.
And he always puts his shaving kit back. And another time he was in there shaving, and his wife was sitting on the bed, and there was a hairdryer on the bed. And my uncle said he was in there, shaving, and he could hear the hairdryer going off and on and off and on. So he peeked around the corner to tell his wife, "Man, you're going to break that. You keep playing with that." And it was sitting about a foot or two away from his wife, and the switch was going back and forth on the hair dryer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then my uncle also has my great grandmother's pump organ that she had got on her 7th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And at night, it had a broken bellows on it. It's one of them pump organs where you have to sit there and pump with both feet.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was broke, but every once in a while you would hear somebody, like a kid, going along as they're walking along and just like hitting a piano or something. But this organ, you had to fill the bellows in order for it to make sound, but it was making a sound. So was that great grandma or was that the ghost? Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I went out there to stay with my uncle for a little bit, and he told me that, or he told me I could sleep down in the den where the trunk was, and his dog there. Me and his dog were buddies. His dog went down to sleep with me, but I was just about to doze off, and then Sam, the dog, he was laying on the bed. He raises his head and looks at the door and starts growling. And then I notice it's like he's watching something invisible. And my uncle had 2 fish tanks in that den. One kind of that you pass just you walk in, and then one at the far end of the room. And the dog was watching. As the dog was watching, it looked like about where that whatever is watching got near one of the first fish tank. It started flickering. The light started flickering. And then as the dog was watching, I could see him watching as the thing, whatever it was walking over to the other fish tank, and then it started flickering. And so I thought, well, maybe I can ask some questions here and have them flicker one tank for yes and flicker the other tank for no. And I did ask him a load of questions, some of which was, uh, did he die in the war? Which it came across yes, and I determined, I determined he died in World War II. Uh, I couldn't exactly, I didn't know any details or anything to actually ask, but anyway, all in all, the next morning I went and told my uncle about the conversation I'd had with it. And that really sparked my uncle's curiosity up. So he broke the hasp off the trunk to preserve the lock.
Yep.
And inside the trunk was a diary. Turned out the guy's name was Walt. He was a cook in the military. Oh, and there's something I forgot to mention too, which is important. Whenever whenever that ghost would come around, you could smell a stale hospital smell, which we really thought was odd. Well, it turns out he died in the hospital. He was a cook in the military, and his encampment got ambushed, and he got some shrapnel in his upper leg. Although they got shrapnel out, he did end up getting gangrene. And in the journal, it tells of all this, but then it tells that he got gangrene, and apparently they can't get control of it. His writing started getting real shaky and everything, and then it quit. So we assume that's when he passed away. But so after that, we started calling him Walt and everything like that. But there's times we'd be sitting there watching TV, and it was a console TV, and all of a sudden sound would just go blaring, and walk over there, and the sound knob was all the way up. There'd be lights that would sit there. The switch would sit there and go up and down and stuff. A lot of the stuff that he would mess with, I think, was stuff he didn't necessarily have in his time, and he was curious.
That's fair enough. I would be too if I was amongst the future incredible technological endeavors, right? What does this do? What does that do? This is incredible. But anyways, go ahead and keep going.
Okay, so anyways, it turns out my uncle ended up having a seance, and to try to communicate with him. And what come across in the seance, the most important thing is that Walt wanted my uncle to get a hold of apparently it was his wife, and tell her that he's okay, that he misses her and he loves her. And he gave like a rural phone number. And but it was a phone number that was like back in World War II,
Right.
My uncle traced it down, and it did at one time belong to his wife, but it had long been out of service. So he wasn't really able to resolve that. But after that, things really calmed down. That the activity would only happen just once in a while or something, So, but it really made me wonder, we're like I'm a paranormal investigator. A lot of people believe that when you die, you kind of go back with your loved ones and everything. Well, if that's the case, if his wife had died and he was already dead, then how come they couldn't find each other?
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm gonna ask some questions. We'll definitely get into your adventures in the paranormal and so forth. But I want to go back to these two experience stories. But to touch base on that, I was listening to a podcast episode called "The Exorcist Files," and there's an actual exorcist priest on there. It's very, I encourage you to listen to that one. That's really, really good because, you know, people get this, get the feeling with, you know, and there's a lot of different dogmas. When you're dead, you either go to heaven or hell, right? You know, in the Catholic Church and in the belief, there is the belief of purgatory. I don't know if you've ever heard of purgatory before. Have you heard of purgatory?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a mystery. Where is purgatory? What is this place? What's going on? And this priest, this exorcist priest, talked about two different stories about an experience that a couple of people had. This one particular was this person who was in a college dorm room, and he'd come back. All his place was messed up. It was messy, just all over the place. He was like weirded out and so forth. And then he ran across this person down this hallway uh, uh, that was dressed differently, red hair, rare beard, and found out that one of the janitor people said, "Oh, that's so and so. You know, he committed suicide. You know, in the dorm." And he's like, "Well, I saw this guy." The guy asked, "What room he stayed in?" He's like, "Oh, this room." He's like, "That's that room he's staying in." And I guess he suffered a lot through just mental illness, just like, you know, like depression, all that stuff. He decided to kill himself. Um, so what the guy did, the ghost came back to him a few times and he said, "Please help me or pray for me. Help me, pray for me." So the guy went to get a priest. They did a ceremony, like a, we call a funeral ceremony that they do in churches. And the spirit left, never bothered again. No, it just didn't hang around. So that's one out of many stories. So I wonder if that's kind of like that. Purgatory is maybe where you're still stuck in earth. You know, you're
Kind of
but
stuck
I
in a
know,
recycle.
yeah, you're stuck in a recycle because you couldn't let go. Now I know people out there are saying, well, if you're a good man and, you know, and you're saved, why don't you go straight to heaven? You know, didn't Christ die for the sins? It's like, well, it's not a question about dying like Christ, like that. Oh, you're still paying for it. It's just that we have a free will, we have a choice, you know, to move on. That still happens, and we don't know, and that's a one-way trip. So I wouldn't know on that, but I wonder if that's the case with Walt, that he just, you know, that he realized, okay, at least they did everything he could, and his wife could be in heaven somewhere. We don't know. I don't know. You know, we have no idea. I mean, does that kind of? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the Gnostic teachings state that once you die, you're greeted by so-called loved ones and everything like that. But they claim that those loved ones are false images, that they're archonic mind manipulation. That like when you die, you, according to the teachings there, when you die, you uh, you appear to be greeted by loved ones and everything, and there's a light. They want you to go into the light, but what that light is a trap to keep you into the recycled reincarnation. Okay, well, if that's the case, if everybody is reincarnated there, then who are them loved ones that are greeting you?
You know what? Let's put a pin on that for a second. It was funny that you're bringing that up because I've been watching some videos regarding this particular thing. Um, what I want to go back to is the experience that you had with the shadow figures and the experience with this ghost. Did you feel different? Like was it different? What was the two difference between the experiences? Like, you got
Okay,
one that's a ghost,
well,
and one, yeah.
okay, in my later years, I come to realize that those shadow figures, okay, of course, I was afraid. I was just a kid. I didn't know what that was, you know.
Right.
But
It's
in my
true, yeah.
later years, I come to realize that, man, you know, running past that one, if it wanted to do me harm, it could have. You
Right.
know, any of them, if they had wanted to do me harm, they could have. I think they were possibly just watching me, or maybe I somehow was able to see into their dimension, and they didn't. You know, um, some people do. I mean, some people can see spirits and stuff like that. I don't know if I had a moment of that, or I'm not sure just how that came about.
Right.
But that really started me on I think that was the key, one of the key things that really started me on my journey for paranormal investigations. And then my experience with Walt was validating that I could actually communicate with him.
Well, even before you discovered who this person like Walt was, or who, you know, what Walt was, I mean, would you say that that's still, even though you're a bit older, would you say that experience was different? Like this is strange. Maybe it shocked you, but were you not scared at all?
Well, you know, oddly enough, when it came into the den there, I
Yeah.
really didn't feel scared. I was like, well, that's weird,
Mhm.
you know. It was, I think it didn't really sink in what I had done until afterwards, and I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I just communicated with a ghost.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and then especially when we broke the trunk open and read uh, that diary, and it helped to validate a lot of the questions that I had asked and was able to confirm. So that, you know, and I was getting intelligent responses. So, you know, and then with my experience too, you know, and from what I understand about recycling, you as soon as you die, you go into like the path of recycling of reincarnation.
Hmm.
Then, if that's the case, then was that really Walt or was that an Archon? You know, I don't know. I
Yeah.
I
Let's
I
let's
don't
talk.
have a definitive
Yeah.
answer there.
Go ahead and go into that. Let's what you said, Arcala. Can you let's go. Let's definitely turn back into that about the Gnostic teachings that you were talking about regarding the recycling and you know Narcula or Arcula. I'm sorry. What was it called again?
Archon,
Archon. Sorry, I apologize. Archon. So
yeah,
let's
Demiurge and Archons.
yeah, let's go back into that regarding the recycling and the death and how you can go. Let's go revisit that reading that you learned. Can you go back and let's re-talk about that a bit and go deeper?
Okay, well, without getting into too much depth, I mean, I really would recommend, you know, people doing some research on the Gnostic beliefs because what they have to say, and then if you overlay that into what's going on with politics and religion and stuff like that, you will see their influence. You know, you'll be like, oh heck, you know, this really is what's going on. The elites, I believe, even I'm not sure if you're familiar with Anunnaki.
Very, very familiar with Anunnaki. There are a lot of arguments that the Jewish religion stemmed from that, or that the Sumerians took it from the Jewish people. There's always like who came first, the chicken or the egg, but I'm very, very familiar with the story. Yes.
Okay, well, I believe that some of them were archonic influence. Archons are parasites on
Mhm.
the. Uh, they're basically the wardens of this reality. We're in a false reality right now, according to the teachings. A reality created by the demiurge, and then he created minions called archons, and they work together to keep negative energy stirred up in the world. They don't have a connection. They don't have the spark that we do to the monad, to the
So
one above, the one
let me
that's
ask
all.
you let me ask this regarding these beings and entities. We're talking about the Anunnaki, you know, and so forth. Were they physical that they came
No,
here? There it was a spiritual element. So how would you say, so are they from this planet, or are they from a different dimension that came over? You know,
archons.
yeah, well, yeah, because of this, from understanding the Sumerian, that the Anunnaki, so the stories that they created human hybrids, you know, to enslave us, do the whole gold thing. I mean, he reminds me of that book by L. Ron Hubbard, Battlefield Earth, right?
Yeah.
But what you're sharing is something a bit is different than what I'm mainly familiar with. So how do they come here if they're not physical? I mean, I mean, were we just here and then just showed up and started doing the influence and created this whole Sumerian religion? I mean, can you go a little more? That question makes sense. I'm getting a different version compared to what I know.
Okay. Well, as far as the archons, I'm not sure what how their effect was on the ancient Sumerians.
Mhm.
But if you look into the Gnostic beliefs and the archons and everything, and then you look at the Anunnaki and like Enlil and some of the other ones, they really kind of match up with some of the archonic uh, uh, profiles. The archons are more energy type beings. They have lost their connection with the spark about, or they never had the connection. We do. They try to keep us distracted with negative emotional energy because that's what they survive off of. They're parasitic, like wars. Anytime you see aggression, heightened aggression and stuff like that, there's a good chance that it's archonic influence. They can get into our minds, although they can't uh, uh, force us into making decisions. They can manipulate us into making us think that's the right decision.
Okay,
Okay.
and it's almost like like in the belief of Christianity, the devil, right? You got the demons that make influences, they make you want to make bad choices, and you know, uh, I mean that's how I'm
Well,
connected so
think
far.
of the devil as the demiurge
Okay,
or Satan.
okay.
That's basically like demiurge, and then archons are very similar to demons.
So what's the difference between demiurge and archons? Is demiurge the one figure, and then archons are his dominions? I mean, am I kind of understanding that correctly or no?
Okay, in the pleroma, which is some people might call it heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's like the top realm. From there, the monad, the one that is all, had his kind of basic thoughts and stuff like that come out as in pure energy beings, like that pure thought. Like say pure
Yeah,
love. They're pure thought, uncorrupted, but
right.
they have never seen the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, in order to really appreciate love, you have to experience hate. In order to really appreciate peace, you have to experience war. To really appreciate one or the other and the other, you have to experience both sides.
So
Otherwise it's like a drug counselor trying to counsel you on drug addiction when they've never had to deal with a drug addiction.
no, that's a yeah. I totally see it. I see what you're saying. That
But
that makes sense. Yeah, it's like telling somebody I know what you've been through. I'm like, dude, you never done you never done with this the chemicals I've done. So it's hard to really tell. You can read about it all you want, but until you experience a little bit, it's hard to really connect
yeah,
on
I've,
that most level. And
yeah, in
that's
my
not
younger days, I've done some drugs.
and by the way,
And,
that for any therapists and psychologists out there, that's not cramping your style. I believe in therapy. I call them referees in life. We're just trying to make a point here. So please, no hate mail. Please,
yeah.
please, please. I respect your profession. Um, so this is really fascinating stuff because then because this helps go with more of that paranormal investigation. But you got me really tied in more with the Gnostics to really reread it because I've read it and I've gotten confused quite a bit. There's some interesting things in there, but it makes me kind of want to reread it again with the perspective of what you're sharing, which like okay, I'm getting some okay interesting moments here. So why so we're let me ask you this, and I hope this ties with everything. Were we created but have we always been naturally here, born like existing naturally born here, or have we been created by an entity or being? Like, you know what I'm
Well,
saying? Like people say we're that missing link between apes and chimps like us, right? And all of a sudden, here's humanity, right? Where we genetic manipulated for a reason for this because of these beings, or have we always been here? And then I'm sorry if that question's kind of off. I'm just curious because again, I'm comparing two different stories with what you're sharing with the Anunnaki, and then compared to what I know that from what I've heard about them creating humanity to do their bidding. So I'm just curious, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, as far as our spirits are eternal. Our souls are our personality of that, and our experiences of that spirit.
Gotcha.
Okay, so our spirits have always been alive. This is right now. I mean that right now, this is our soul experience, the reality that we are in. We're experiencing what it's like to be in a material world. Okay, but we're all fragments of well, there's some of the Gnostic teachings that say that we're fragments of Sophia. Sophia is the one that created the demiurge. Sophia is from the pleroma. She is one of what they call aeons.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Aeons are, I'm sorry, what?
No, I've heard of that. Keep going. Sorry, I've heard that. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, but Sophia translates to wisdom, and she's always in search of wisdom. But that curiosity got her in trouble. Okay, they in the pleroma they have their other half. You have feminine and masculine. And when they create together to create a balance in whatever they create. Okay, so Sophia, just out of curiosity, wanted to see if she could create something on her own, and she ended up creating the demiurge. The demiurge is described as kind of like a serpent with a lion's head and blazing eyes, with fire blazing out of its eyes.
Well,
Okay,
that's
but
interesting. Look at the Egyptians with serpents and lions' bodies, so that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the demiurge.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Well,
but the demiurge.
Well, ask us before you about the image. What was her purpose for that creation? Was it just out of curiosity, or did she also have a purpose for?
It was out of curiosity.
Okay, gosh, there was no purpose. Like, hey, what can I create? It's like cooking. Like, let's see if this tastes good. No, it was terrible. But anyway, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, but she created the demiurge, and that was like an abomination because it didn't have the balance of both parts. But so, according to stories, she hid him in like a cloud type thing. But in that cloud, all he could see was himself, and so he proclaimed that he is God and there is no God beside him. That actually made it in the Bible. Okay, that was
No,
also
I know exactly where you're going with this, and I'm gonna have you continue.
Marduk had even said that.
Yeah, here's what I'm gonna. No, I know exactly where you're going with this, and I'm glad you're bringing that point up. But before we go in deeper more into that, the demiurge is why didn't Sophia, in your mind, or if it ever says so, why don't you just destroy it? I mean, if I'm cooking something that doesn't taste good,
Because she's not a destroyer. They apparently they only have the ability to create. They don't have the ability to destroy.
Okay, all right.
So, but anyway, in this realm, the demiurge, believing that he was the ultimate god and everything, he ended up creating minions that he calls archons. The archons are basically like the demons are to Satan. Okay, they're kind of parallel. Okay, they pretty much have the same influence and stuff. They can get into your thoughts and give you some warped thoughts and manipulate your thoughts and everything. But just like some demons or what some may call hijackers, spirit hijackers, you walk by somebody that's got a spirit attached to them and they jump to you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So oh, go ahead.
Oh, so basically where I'm kind of following this is and I've heard this and tell me I fall off base here. And guys, this is a conversation. I'm not here stating facts and so forth because I love Steve's interpretation of his reading on this because it's important that we ask questions. I really believe so. That being said, are you suggesting or believing that the Old Testament God is the Demiurge.
The Old Testament God is primarily about the Anunnaki.
Okay.
And it's not God, it's gods. I mean, I don't even use the term God to describe the one that is all, because the
No, I
term God
understand.
has been dirtied so much by false gods that I don't think it's worthy of calling the one that is all God.
Well, so for what I understand is, again, it's going to sound egotistical just from a human standpoint, and maybe I'm right or wrong. From what I understand, and please correct me if I'm off base, is that we talk about this recycling of the spirit, the soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't from and this is again fragment memory of me reading that the male female spirit, like Sophia and the other being who it was, I forgot the name, weren't they supposedly dismantled into, again, the stories that we're all pieces of it in a way? Is that am I off base on that? Is that why
No,
you're saying the whole recycling thing? I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's almost like because this being that was created it wants to be a god itself and doesn't want, and somehow supposedly destroyed the male and female celestial, divine divinities, you want to call it, and just fragmented it. And all of a sudden it's like our soul, it's like we all got a piece of it in us. So if I'm please correct me if I'm wrong. That's why I kind of understand, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, but like the aeons, but they were born of pure light and like specific attributes. Well, we have a combination of those attributes. Okay, they are a singular form of the attributes, but we have the combination of them. That's part of our spirit, of our consciousness. We're all fragments of the same consciousness, but we're experiencing this reality at different levels.
So my question goes back, are we created by, just like how Sophia created these beings, are we created by these aeons as human beings? And then, I'm
No,
just trying.
we are part of the pleroma.
Okay, so
We are well, like I say, there's some talk of Sophia had okay, when the demiurge created this reality, there were some spirits wanted to come down, just to kind of like going to Disneyland or something, just wanted to come to experience the material world, but got trapped in here.
well, I want a different ride.
Yeah, exactly.
This roller coaster ride sucks, man. Sorry.
Well, I'm not amused at this amusement park anymore.
I'm gonna punch Mickey Mouse right in the face. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
But anyways, go ahead. Anyway, I had to throw that in there. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's see. I can't remember where I was on that.
That the spirits are coming down with, like, it's like want to come down and check Earth out, like you said.
Okay,
like Disneyland. Sorry.
Okay, but we got trapped in this recycling by the demiurge and the archons.
Oh, so it is Disneyland. It is Disneyland. Sorry,
yeah,
I got some jokes. Sorry. So they were
yeah.
tricked,
Well,
pretty much.
in comparison, you know how Disneyland has like fake realities within it.
Oh yeah, they're very good about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we are living in a fake reality too.
So you think the demiurge tricked these spirits after create like the aeons and like, hey, come look what I created. Come check it out. Take it for a ride. And then all of a sudden, like the story of Pinocchio, where he gets trapped in with that a guy on this island, which is kind of compared to Epstein Island, which is creepy. But
Yeah, it could very well be like that. I mean, there's actually no definitive proof. All you can do is go by what ancient beliefs are and see if it makes sense with you, see if it resonates with you, because we've all had our memory wiped. Okay, it's spiritual awakening is about remembering. It's not necessarily about learning. It's about remembering. Okay, remembering what we have forgot. We need to remember that we're much greater than this. Okay, the more you start seeing the false reality and the influence of the archons and stuff, the more you see the fake reality, the more you see what is actually keeping us held in here. The mindsets and where people have. I mean, I myself, I'm guilty of it too. Just choosing the easier path rather than taking the hard path. Although the results of the hard path would have been better, but you take the easy path, you're submitting to control. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So
And so I want to add to that too, with you is, or actually say to you is, or no, ask you actually, what's the and I'll give you what I've researched recently regarding the whole recycling or reincarnating of the soul, right? What is your belief? I know you said it a few times here, but I want to make sure I'm asking the question directly. What is a purpose of the recycling of the soul? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
no, it's a bad thing.
What's the end game? Go ahead.
Because they want to keep us like cows. They their substance is our negative energy. If we were just to return back to the pleroma, they would eventually run out of stock here.
So we're pretty much the milk for these.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We're the milk cows, negative energy for them.
So how in your belief, how does that cycle end? How do we get out of that type of cycle?
Okay, supposedly when we die, when we are approached by the loved ones and saying, you need to go back. You have unfinished business. You need to correct your karma, all this, that, and the other. Don't pay attention to that, and keep in mind that
So
if the stories are true,
so Buddhism is, even though it has great intentions, it's not a healthy like that whole belief.
No,
and that's not to offend Buddhists out there. We're just talking, all right. Just let you know, we respect and love everybody. But go
I'm
ahead.
not dissing any religion. I'm just giving my perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So let's see. And so when we approach the light, we don't go into the light. We turn away from the light because the light is a false light. Okay. As soon as you step into that light, your memory is wiped and you go back into reincarnation.
So what about people
don't go
see
into
hell?
light?
What about hell? How do you not go to hell? That's the other thing too.
Well, hell and heaven are a state of mind.
Gotcha.
They're not an actual physical place. They're a state of mind. Even Jesus tried to teach this. Jesus tried to teach the Christ consciousness, and that's what Jesus was teaching Gnostic teachings.
So let me ask you this. Yeah, let me ask you this question. So let's say, with that plan with Christ, right? And we'll get into more of that too. With that plan with Christ, when someone is having a near-death experience, I'm sure you've heard many of those stories. No, just for you being a paranormal investigator, and they're seeing Jesus talk to them, and they go back to Earth, or because you hear people talk about that. Do you think that's just a trick of?
Well, according to Gnostic beliefs and stuff, that's part of the trick. They can.
That they're trying to propagate Jesus in their own way compared to what Jesus and the Gnostics.
They're able to tap into your consciousness and see what would influence you most. Would it be loved ones? Would it be Jesus? Would it be Buddha? Whoever, what would be most effective in talking you into going back?
Gotcha. And what do you think? Why people who have near-death experiences? Why do they just take them on the spot and just recycle them? Do you think it's more of just like just planting a false flag when people show stories just to keep the cycle going? In those things, I saw this, heaven's real, or I was in hell and Jesus pulled me out and I came back my body. I'm going to share this message. And again, I'm not dissing people who have near-death experiences. I'm not, again, want to make sure that's clear because I don't want to take that away from anybody. But I think it's a good question to ask just to get your perspective on that. Is that just a propaganda machine by the archons, to keep that cycle going, not just in belief systems on this planet, but to take that experience back to share the stories, just to keep that rolling, to keep the machine oiled.
Yeah. To keep it in, to get it in people's heads. Oh, when I die, I'll see Jesus.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
yeah.
someone had a
So,
near
so
death
when you
experience.
die,
Yeah.
that's going to be in your head. You're going to see Jesus.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
but that, according to Gnostic beliefs, and again, this is what Jesus was trying to teach. That heaven is within, not without. Okay, Jesus
right.
didn't come here to be worshipped. He came here to show us the way. You have to walk the path. He shows you the spiritual way. It's up to us to unlock them doors and walk through. Okay, Jesus is not. If we're not going to do the work, Jesus ain't going to save you.
So let me ask you this question, because I know in the Bible, the New Testament stuff that I've read, and I'm personally still a believer into that. But again, I like asking questions because I think it's really good to ask those questions. I
Oh
think
yeah, for sure.
I think we have a brain, use it, think and ask questions. It's not being offensive. I
Yeah,
think
see what resonates with you.
yeah, exactly. But I know in the Bible, Christ talks about how the kingdom of heaven is within us. He does talk about in the Bible. Now, I know there's differences in the Gnostic beliefs. One, about Christ being the Son of God, and then others about, and you can elaborate more about who Jesus is in the Gnostics. But before we get into that, then who created Christianity? I know people say the gospel, the disciples did. They went around, they got persecuted, but of course it became more dogmatic in the 3rd century by Constantine in Rome.
Yeah,
So
Constantine help usher in Christianity, although he never converted to Christianity.
and that's the thing too, is like, was Rome really conquered? Has Rome really gone? When it's
No,
actually
Rome just rebranded into the Catholic Church.
and that's been the census about that. So, but again, do you think that Christianity reused the version of Christ that, like, so let's say this, let's say, if true, that the Christ in the Gnostics is who you're saying that is, do you think it was rebranded by the archons to make it play more like, okay, we'll use this Christ figure, but we're gonna use it for our way, for our agenda, make
Yeah,
him a god, make him, you know what I'm saying? And do you think that was influenced, like you said, on humanity, kind of like tapping his shoulder, putting thoughts in the head to kind of create this whole divinity aspect?
archonic influences in the churches. And anytime they teach you that you have to search outside of yourself for salvation, that's archon influence to keep you constantly searching, never
Right.
satisfied.
Right.
Okay, Christ, even Jesus had said, remember where he said, "Your father is not my father." When he said your
Yeah.
father, he was referring to the demiurge.
Mm, okay. No, I see what you're saying. Because I know in the Bible, again, I don't know the Gnostics like you do. Christ in the Bible and by the Gospels, based on the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, he says, "I am the Father and I are one." Is
Because
that, are you saying that?
we are all part of the Father.
Okay. So with that being said, I know he was very hard on the Pharisees because they were trying to obey the law. I mean, example, the woman who was about to be stoned, who was a prostitute, right? And back then, how back then prostitution. I mean, any adultery, any prostitution, you're dead, right? And Christ, they brought him to Christ saying, "This woman has committed adultery, broken a commandment. What should we do with her?" And they're about to stone her. And then Jesus is writing on the ground. No one knows what he was writing. Some were suspecting or said he was writing the sins of the Pharisees down, right? And he said, he asked, well, those who have not sinned, cast the first stone. Because the Pharisees like, well, if we cast the first stone, then we're claiming we're perfect. But they're like, damn. And they all
Yeah,
drop the stones, right?
yeah.
And
The churches teach you are imperfect, so how can they claim themselves to be perfect?
yeah, and also in the Gospels too. And I don't feel, and again, the Gnostics, I get the stuff it says. There's a lot of similarities. Of course, the Gnosticism that's written, especially about Christ, is very like crazy in depth. I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's like depth, right? And then the Gospels of the New Testament, and I'm just talking about the 4 Gospels because I'm not going to get into Paul. That's a whole nother subject to talk about. A lot of it is love and forgiveness, right? He called out a lot of people, but Christ spent a lot of time with taxpayers and prostitutes. So to me, I don't feel that different, but I think maybe because to me, the New Testament's more of the simple message of love, faith, and salvation. But on the other side of it, with the Gnosticism, it goes more in depth about what you're talking about. So, and that's the thing is, how do you know which is which? If I'm dying right now and I see Jesus and I'm about to approach Jesus, I will say it's hard for me not to go to the light, right? Because I'm seeing Jesus. But is that and because you have people that say they're filled with love and peace and no worry and all this stuff. So I mean, how do you not want to go to that? How do you not I think I'm a good judge of character. If I go to a place and somebody's giving me a cloak and dagger, like I'm in retail for many years, and I usually have a good sense about people, about intentions. Why can't we do? Why? How do you stop yourself from not going to light when you're seeing this and you're feeling this and you're a wave of emotion? I mean, that question makes any sense. But yeah,
that depends on the individual and their own struggle with it. There's no due to the fact that everybody's different, we're not going to have the same path to get out. So I mean,
that's a fair point.
If you're researching this with true of heart and true of intentions, then basically the universe will guide you to what you need to know. Okay, but you got to have that with true heart and true intention. Okay, and same with praying. You can't just say words to pray. You have to have true heart and intention when you pray. Okay, so it okay. I can't
No,
remember
go. No, it's okay. I know I could ask the question, and you answered it. Everybody's experience. You're right. Everybody's different. Everybody's experience is different. That's a fair point. It's just, I guess, until we're there, that one-way trip, or supposedly not one-way trip, but that trip for what one-way trip for our memory. We don't know. I don't know. It is a conundrum for me. But I will say this regarding the whole recycling thing, because this is the point I bring up. So you talked about the Anunnaki, we talk about the Gnostics and all this stuff, and that we're this milked cow for these entities that they feed off. So I was watching this episode. There's this great show on YouTube. There's only 3 people I really listen to when it comes to podcasting that I really like. Minus Art Bell. Art Bell's the king. Art Bell's a freaking king. Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I've done a couple of tributes.
Yeah, but yeah, and by the way, I'm blessed. That's awesome. I'm jealous, by the way. Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan, and the Y Files. Those are really good unbiased shows. The Y Files,
I love the Y Files, man.
So you know what I'm talking about. It's funny, it's hilarious, but he does a great job in his narration, and
and he explores both sides of it.
Oh, he does. It's like, God, if I had that ambition to really do that, I would. But I'm more of a conversation type of person because I like to learn from people and I like to engage with people. But he did do a recent episode, believe it or not. This is recent. It's funny how this is kind of like this moment of we're just talking about this, and I just watched this yesterday regarding the event that happened in Roswell, New Mexico, which you're from. So it's hilarious.
Born in Roswell.
Yeah, born in Roswell, New Mexico. I know you live in Utah, but talks about this nurse who is helping this being out of the crash craft, right? And it was a gray alien, but the weird thing was, when she's talking to and so forth, she couldn't, wouldn't communicate. But however, it mind spoke, like it spoke telepathically to her.
Telepathically.
And what she said is like, I just need some, I guess the being says I need some water. And, she's asking me, injured? No, the body's fine, but this is not my body. I just inhabit it.
Yeah.
And this whole spirit thing, like, it's just a vessel. I don't like, I mean, it's like that's
our avatar.
But that's a crazy thing. This being can go in and out of the body anytime it wants to. Yeah. It's like, right? And they talked about, Yeah, and it talks about the recycling, how it's a trap.
Yeah.
It talks, dude, it talks about the same stuff I listened yesterday that you're talking today. That's why I'm kind of blown away. I'm not kidding. And the episode just came out yesterday. Isn't that that's a mind screw, dude? Like, I'm like, because they're talking about how like you know, and this woman who wrote the letter. But anyways, watch the episode. There's people pulled that Wi-Fi's episode. It's incredible. But it talks exactly what you're talking about how it's a trap and how we're being recycled and we're getting reset, like the Matrix in a way. The Matrix is pretty mind blowing, you know.
Yeah,
That
a lot
talks
of
about
these
reincarnation.
a lot of these movies that come out kind of give you little what you might call Easter eggs, little tidbits of a technology or information that's coming up. You know,
Well, the
I mean,
Matrix,
like the
yeah,
movie Stargate.
yeah,
Stargate. Stargates didn't come around because of the movie. The movie came around because of the Stargates that they had found.
yeah, and the Matrix was really past its time because it really, you know, people put it, well, it's like, you know, being Jesus and the biblical stuff, but then it's like talking about how it's all a game and that the bodies are actually batteries and people just get recycled over again to keep the machine city going. It's the power source. I kind of feel like that's based on what you're saying, but what I listened to yesterday is that we are the energy source in some type of other dimension outside our realm that we're not aware of. And I will say this. I know they're talking about disclosure coming out, and I will tell you this, people, if that does come out and they say aliens exist and machines exist, they're still hiding a lot of crap from you.
They'll never come out with it all.
Yeah, and Tim Burchett from Congress talked about the things that I was told would keep you up at night. And he says it's not dangerous. We're not threatened. If they wanted to kill us, these beings, they could have, but we're not. And I think the stuff that he's talking about is what we're talking about here. If that's true, that he says he said this, that people, if they knew the full truth, people will go with
the only way that people will really understand is to get the full truth.
So do you believe that without that full truth, if we were told that this was come up, this is true, that we're recycled, so forth, do you think that will piss off the war machine regarding its engine that it will set us free? Hopefully.
It'll shatter their false reality. You know, the more people that wake up, the more cracks in the wall. Eventually, you get enough cracks, it's all going to come tumbling down.
Do you feel that? Do you think people out there today? Well, let me ask this question: what's your census on society today and people? Just you walking around and what you're seeing. Do you think it's gotten worse in a way that people are feeling more scared? Or I mean, you know, I feel like there's a shift inside. I really do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what do you feel? What do you think? You've been around quite. And this is not to call you all old, but you've seen a lot of things. You've been around a long time. You've seen different decades, and have you ever seen anything this magnitude of what's going on around
chaos?
us? Yeah. Chaos all over.
No, I haven't. I mean, there's a lot of talk that we're going through a shift now from it's a separation between higher frequency beings and lower frequency beings. The people that are all about negative, wanting wars and they're all about hate and everything are lower negative entity or beings, and which could be, you know, archonic influence. They gave over into the archonic influence. They gave into it. Okay, but then there's higher frequency beings that are all about compassion, knowledge, and sharing. You know, let's bring each other up rather than, hey, you know, to heck with you guys. I'm on my own journey. Let's bring everybody up.
Right.
So if you're all about individualism, then there's a good chance you may be influenced by archons because they're self-centered, they're self-serving.
Well, I will agree with you on this one, and I'm just as guilty of it. Like I think any human being is comfort. Because and honestly, like today, I wake up at times. This is the first time in a while I woke up with my wife likes to call the Sunday scaries. Because we're off, but we gotta go to work tomorrow, and God knows what surprises are gonna happen, and who knows what. you know, and all this jazz. And so, but at the end of the day, it's like, dude, it's all like how I really look at it, no matter what, this is created by us, or we're, you know, like this is all false. This is just how our system works. Does that mean it has to be the way? No. You know, there's other choices and other paths we can do to make our system better, to be it in love and unity. And I believe that, you know, and I think forgiveness is a huge thing. I'm not saying people shouldn't suffer consequences, but I think forgiveness is healing because it's a pill that, you know, I tell people it's a bitter pill you swallow and hope the other person gets sick.
And it's taking back that energy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because
reclaiming your energy.
Yeah, and there's like I said, we're all guilty of something. We've done things, and you know, and there's people have done things to me, but I forgive them because you know what? I still look at them as a child of God. My belief. I think they have an important reason in life, and I always pray for others that they come to that, because that to me it's good for them, and obviously it's good for me.
Yeah.
You know, type of thing.
Yeah, that's got to be a good part of it too. You know, it. You know, how does it affect you? Does it affect you out of greed, or does it affect you out of compassion?
Intention, right? Intent
yeah,
is a very important factor.
Yeah, exactly. Your intentions are everything.
You can do a lot of good things, but if your intent is totally for, I'm trying to get accolades with God to get to heaven, you're in the, you know, that, you know what I'm saying? Like that mindset I've seen. That's not a good. I mean, it's great you help people, but make sure your intentions are there. I know we're coming pretty close here for a while. But I do have a few more questions if you bear with me.
All right.
With that being said, we're talking about the Gnosticism, we're talking about the archons, we're talking about, you know, all things Gnostic. We're talking about the recycle of the soul, how it's a trap to feed the engine. I mentioned about the crash landing in 1947, which you're, I'm sure, very familiar with, being from there. When it comes to aliens, are like the example I shared, that story, how that person says, this is just a vessel. This is not my true form. This is not who I am. Do you believe that there is extraterrestrial life out in different planets, or do you feel that it's interdimensional, or a bit of both? Any of your thoughts on
I
that?
think it's all of the above. I think we have inner terrestrials, meaning inner Earth,
Okay.
and then us being terrestrials, and then extraterrestrials being from space.
And extraterrestrial could mean everything from interdimensional from a different plane or from a different planet.
Yeah.
I mean, even angels, you hear talk about angels, they're technically extraterrestrials. They're not from here, right? But anyways, so you believe all in the
Okay.
above.
Yeah. Well, for anyone that doesn't believe in life on other planets, have not read up on the Anunnaki, because there's validation right there. They came from a planet called Nibiru.
Yeah.
You know, so they're from a different planet. Yeah, they came here and hybrided us from an existing species. Worked for them, which actually took several steps to actually create a good being that could actually do the work for them. But we've also been or upgraded as life went on. Noah is one of the major upgrades. Noah was half Anunnaki. Enki was Noah's dad, was Noah's father. Enki is full Anunnaki of the royal bloodline.
What about the Nephilims in the Bible? Because what I understand that in Moses' time, the reason why God was flushing the earth out, besides it being full of sin, in the Bible, just you're talking about the Old Testament, but there was a lot of, in the book of Enoch. And actually, it's funny, Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman, who's in part of that UFO investigation, I believe they're really trying, they're pushing hard, right? But she says,
there are people that are really trying.
She said, if you read the book of Enoch, she's saying this is what the beings are. They're Nephilims or fallen angels or this. Again, I'm talking about what they're saying. So what's your thoughts about the Nephilim being fallen angels, half hybrids of human and supposedly angelic spirits or archon, whatever you want to call them? What's your thoughts about that?
Well, according to the stories of the Anunnaki, it was the Ijiji that came down and mated with the women of men. But the reason why they gave birth to giants. When we were created, we were given the essence of the royal bloodline of the Anunnaki. The Gigi were a completely different species. They were a conquered species that they pretty much enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it was the Gigi that came down because they had been working hard labor on Mars and on Earth for thousands of years, and they didn't have any women. Okay, well, that finally it was Marduk that had actually married a human woman, and in that the Gigi felt, well, if Marduk can take a human wife, then we can too. And that's when they came down and took women of their own. But like I say, they were a different species. Okay, their genes weren't matched up to ours, and they gave birth to uncontrollable. You might call it a gigantism. That's where the giants ended up coming in.
Right, right. So going back to add to that regarding a former Congressman Matt Gaetz, who came out on a podcast and talked about what he was read into by the witnesses, that there is a hybrid program, hybrid combining, we call alien DNA, extraterrestrial DNA with humans. And Congressman Tim Burchett was asked about that. He said, I can't comment about that due to secrecy, which kind of gives yes, right?
Yeah.
Do you believe that this is a new reform? I would call a Nephilim 2.0 per se.
Well, it very well could be.
Thing.
It's kind of like the same concept. I mean, the Gigi too were supposedly were experimenting with genetics and stuff too.
Oh, animal like minotaurs and all this. I've heard that those. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like the centaurs.
Yeah.
The half man, half horse.
Yeah.
The minotaur. A lot of them. If you really go deep into the stories of the Anunnaki, it tells of how they were doing genetic experimentations on all living things. They took something like 200 different animals and did all kinds of genetic experiments on them.
But do you think this is an influence by like the Anunnaki redoing this again, or you think this is a whole different ball game from some other entity, or just us as humans playing God and trying to just enhance our genetics somehow from these beings and entities? Like it's a whole different agenda. It's not the same agenda like it was done before. Maybe same intent, but yeah.
Well, now as far as the second coming, I think the second coming, people call it the second coming of Jesus, but it's not. It's the second coming of the Christ consciousness. It's the Christ consciousness rising once again. Okay, but I also believe it's going to involve the return of the Anunnaki. I mean, by many different people's calculations, the Anunnaki could be as close as even a year to 5 years away.
I'll tell you, it's in the book of Revelations, they talk about the Antichrist. It's kind of similar in a way, where it comes to be this being that I am the Messiah. I am here to make things right. Type of thing.
Well, you've heard Project Bluebeam?
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh my God.
There's that too.
Yeah. There. Well, I'll tell you this: Werner von Braun. If people don't know who he is, he was part of Operation Paperclip when we destroyed the Nazis, and we pretty much both the Russians and us were trying to grab as much scientists as possible. Werner von Braun was one to help us to get on the moon. Well, if you believe we landed on the moon, but to get us in the space supposedly. And he talked about 7 events that was going to happen, and the last one of the 2 events he talked about was that there was going to be a disease, like a fake of our lockdowns, which we had COVID, and the other one is a fake alien invasion. That's why I talk about Project Bluebeam.
Yeah.
You know?
That second coming is going to be, I mean, I think it's probably going to be a mixture of actual alien encounter, but also through military falsehoods, fake flags and stuff that the military's going to try to be putting out. I think that's in an effort to better control the narrative
Right.
and to
Right.
keep people in a fear mongering stage. So,
And to
Project Bluebeam. I mean, if it were to come today, I'd probably sit there and laugh at it because, especially where my studies into Gnostic beliefs and stuff like that, I really think this is part of the false flags and the coming of the Antichrist.
this last question I wanted to ask you is, with that being said, you being a paranormal investigator, and you being a paranormal investigator, and I've been doing it for the last 2 years with my guys Xander and John. We but after talking to you kind of rewired my brain about the approach. With that being said, your knowledge, what do you think is going on with the paranormal? What's your thoughts? Do you think it's, like you said, like the Walt, was that the real Walt? Was it not the real Walt? Was it something? Is it another cognitive machine just to keep us in our belief systems that has been in your, you say created in a way? Like you go out and you do investigation. How do you approach that? How do you do that, man? With all this knowledge, how do you do your paranormal investigating?
Well, I always keep it in the back of my mind that it may be a fake spirit, a mimic or something to that effect, that I might be communicating with. I don't full-heartedly put all my chips on that.
Okay.
I always keep it reserved that this may not. In fact, a lot of times I will ask, have you ever existed in a human form, with a human spirit? And there was one time I was on an investigation. My son and I were up a canyon here called Indian Canyon. It's supposed to have some haunted places. And so we ended up coming across an entity. We had our K2 meter come across something that through communicating with through the meters, we were able to find out that it was not human. It had never lived as man or beast. It considered itself a spirit of the forest, a guardian of the forest. So, there's validation right there that it may not necessarily be human. We need to. I mean, they could lie about it. They could say, "Yeah, I have," and not actually have. So, you just got to kind of take that on your own discretion.
Well,
So,
I'm wondering too, is like you said, the archons. I wonder if there could be potentially rogue archons trying to claim territory in certain areas in Dominion.
yeah.
That may be like, hey, I'm tired of trying to do this system, but I'm going to create my own system to empower my own engine. And that's that's theory in my brain. I don't know. I could be wrong.
That's a very good theory.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there's no way to actually validate a lot of this stuff, but
no, it's just a theory.
But you can just go by the most feasible theory.
Okay. I promise this is the last question for you. Because I gave you the question. What advice would you give to those who are paranormal investigating areas? What would you say is an important lesson or important feedback and advice that you would give to when approaching areas like you do yourself?
Well, don't take it for granted it's a human spirit if you do come across it. And you can't see it. There's no kind of book or anything like that to really describe, what you need to look for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got it. A lot of it's experience, how you feel. You got to, if you feel negative energy around you, you may want to get out of there. It's. I mean, I've gone into places that people, they tell me, "Oh, could you check out my basement or whatever?" Everybody that goes down there feels creeped out and everything. I go down there, I don't find anything down there. I don't feel, I don't. I think a lot of that people have it in the mindset that they see too many scary movies.
Yeah.
And so they think that deep, dark dungeons and everything have to have something creepy in it.
No.
So I don't think that's always the case.
Right.
I think people's minds play tricks on them.
No, and I agree with that too. I totally echo that for sure. Before we go, is there any final thoughts that you want to share or say into anybody out there regarding of what we just talked about today? Because it's some pretty in-depth stuff, some mind-blowing thinking to do. But anything you want to say at the end?
Well, there's what I'd like to say is the stuff that we've been talking about. I mean, take it with your grain of salt. Okay, if it resonates with you, then great. I would really encourage, if you're going to get into paranormal investigations, to there's a difference between ghost hunting and paranormal investigations. Paranormal investigations, you're going to research it. You're not out there just for the thrill.
Right.
I don't get excited when I come across contact or something like that. I'm just as calm as I am talking with you. But I've done it so much. So, and I train myself to keep myself neutral, my emotions and everything neutral, because I mean, I could have something come screaming up in my face, and I'm going to keep myself neutral, because chances are they're trying to do that to create a negative uh, response, a negative energy response, and I'm not going to give them that.
Okay. That's well said.
You got to keep yourself neutral, because they can, and have control of your fear, because they can use that energy against you. They can play mind tricks on you. If you like watching scary movies and stuff, I don't watch it so much for the thrill. I watch them to train my mind to get used to surprises, to things
Right.
you don't expect, to be able to grab a hold of yourself immediately.
Yeah.
So I'd even recommend that. You've got to be able to maintain your aura. You've got to have a positive aura about you, so that they can't use negativity against you, that negative energy against you.
Okay. And I love that. I remember you said that before when we were first talking, and I really agree with definitely those points, that approach, and neutralize and neutral, keep yourself neutral in those moments. Well, Steve, stay on when we end. I'll do a little debrief. Everybody out there, I want to thank Steve Ghostman for being on this podcast. This has been, like all my other guests, every guest is special to me. Everyone has such great, unique experiences. It's beautiful to talk to people who are so diverse in what they do and their experiences. And most importantly, regardless of the subject, it's good just to connect with people. This is what we need to do. It's the healthy thing.
And try to spark people's curiosity. Get in there and try to do some of this research. Like the Anunnaki, man, I had heard it so many times that I was finally like, well, man, maybe I need to look into this.
Yeah.
And man, I really dove deep. It's a deep rabbit hole, but it's an interesting one. It can be confusing. It can be confusing, but the more you research it and everything, the more you start to understand, what's going on.
Yeah. Amen to that, man. Steve, thank you again. Stay on. Everybody, I hope you enjoy the show. How can you reach me? boundary234@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Spotify, on YouTube, all the other popular platforms out there. Again, like I said before, ask questions, think for yourself, have a conversation, be a human being.
See what resonates with you.
Regarding agnostic or Christianity, God loves you and Jesus, man. Until then, see you on the other side.